All right, guys. Our next guest finally has clarity in his future as he's set to take on Jan Blachowicz at UFC 253 on Fight Island for the vacant UFC light heavyweight title after his thrilling fight against Jon Jones back in February at UFC 247. It is great to see the Dominator back in action. Dominick Reyes, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you today, man?
Good, man. How are you guys doing today?
Good, man. Good. We're so happy to have you on the program. And before we talk about this fight that's coming up, let's go back in time a little bit and look at how we even got here, because you had that razor close fight with Jon Jones at UFC 247, and it looked like a rematch might be on tap. At what point did you realize that this thing wasn't going to happen?
When I signed this contract.
Wow. All the way up to it, you believe that there's a chance that this rematch is going down?
Yeah, there's always a chance until there's not, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when did this Jan fight start coming together, and when did you sort of realize that you were going to have to switch gears and switch sights from Jon Jones to Jan Blachowicz?
4 weeks ago. Three and a half, 4 weeks ago, yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing it would be, it's quite a big difference in opponents. You know, you would have been sort of thinking about this rematch and how it was going to go down. How did it feel when you knew that sort of Jon was out of the picture and you had this new opponent in Jan?
It's never mattered the opponent as long as it's for a title. So the result's the same. You know, I'm gonna be champ. That's all that matters to me. Opponent doesn't matter to me.
So as far as you're concerned, like whether you got the Jon Jones rematch or Jan Blachowicz, it's all kind of the same to you, not really phased either way, right?
It's all the same result. I got my hand raised, and I got a gold belt. That's all that matters to me.
What was your reaction to Jon finally vacating the belt and also deciding to move to heavyweight?
It was made it more clear, which was cool. If I was fighting for a title, it wasn't going to be an interim title, so that's pretty important and awesome. So it went from a possible interim fight to absolute, undisputed champion, and that's brings much more weight. So yeah, it was cool.
Was there a sense of relief, I guess, as far as like him moving up and letting the division roll on as opposed to holding on to it like we've seen in other divisions where, you know, there's such a massive logjam and people trying to be champs and things like that?
No relief. It was just, it is what it is. It wasn't, I didn't really have any kind of emotion or anything towards it. It was just like, all right, so how much are you paying me for this next one? That's all it was.
It's an interesting situation because a lot of people believed that Jon saw this rematch with you, you know, as a very difficult challenge, and him going up to heavyweight was perhaps because of that. Do you feel like he was sort of in a small way trying to avoid doing that rematch with you?
Jon's hedging his bets. He's just hedging the bet, man. That's all. Highest probability of success.
We saw that you sent out a big tweet the other day. You basically thanked Jon Jones and wished him well in his journey to heavyweight. What made you want to do that and sort of extend almost an olive branch in a sense?
It's over. I mean, it's over. He's gone. There's no point in trying to get a rematch with somebody that's not in the division anymore. It's over. It's a time for a new reign. It's time for a new king. And I'm ready to take that role.
When you said, I know things got a little crazy, but I just wanted to be pushed beyond my perceived limits by the light heavyweight goat again, what did you mean by things got a little crazy?
Immediately following the fight, we were very respectful towards each other. He promised me a rematch in the ring, and we were moving along like men. In the aftermath, things kind of got a little like internet-y, I call it, kind of weird. So I just wanted to clarify it, that was all just bullshit. And this is me being real.
So is it completely just water under the bridge? Like if you say saw Jon Jones at an event, it would be like just completely amicable, shake hands, nothing between you guys anymore.
To be honest, there wasn't really anything between us. We fought our hearts out against each other. We put on a hell of a performance for the fans, and there was controversy surrounding the fight. You know, it gave people a lot of things to talk about. It was really cool. It was exactly what I wanted out of, you know, I've always been searching for the guy that's going to push me to my limits and teach me new things and show me that I am more powerful than I think I am. And that fight was that for me, and I'm grateful for that. And yeah, I don't have any ill will towards Jon. You know, I was a little bit irked by the not being able to get a rematch, but stepping back and looking at it, you know, it's business. You know, he's trying to keep his legacy and keep his money up, and I'm trying to do the same. So it's all good.
Does a part of you feel sort of happy that you sort of at least got a chance to fight Jon Jones before he moved on from the division and sort of experience being in the octagon with him?
It was definitely a blessing, man. You ask almost any fighter on earth who their dream fight would be, it would be one of the GOATs. If it's a light heavyweight or a heavyweight or a middleweight, they're going to say Anderson Silva. They're going to say Jon Jones. They're going to say Stipe. You know, welterweights are going to say GSP. You know, everybody wants to fight the greatest to see where they stand and see what they're capable of. And I was afforded the opportunity to do that. Possibly the last person ever to fight Jon at light heavyweight. And, you know, I took it to him. I showed my heart. I showed the world what I'm about. And I gained a lot from that inside the octagon and out of the octagon. And I'm just honored and proud to have been able to go through that and, you know, be possibly the last guy ever to fight him at light heavyweight.
You mentioned that he's sort of hedging his bets. You know, when you go into this fight at UFC 253, and if you become champion, are you already sort of expecting him to, you know, start tweeting out that he's the real champion and sort of still continue this kind of rivalry, or do you believe that he's truly moved on from it?
Yeah, I don't really expect him to do all that, and if he was going to do all that, I mean, he wouldn't have left the division, you know. So I mean, that's like completely backtracking on what you acted on. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's the kind of guy to completely leave the division and be like trying to talk trash about the division. You know, that doesn't make sense. But you never know. You never know. You don't know what people are thinking or what they do or how they live their life. To be honest, it doesn't really matter at all. I'll still have the gold belt. So.
Well, sort of looking forward to Jan, do you think that this experience and going through it with Jon Jones maybe almost gives you an advantage when fighting Jan, something that he hasn't experienced, you know, that you fought Jon Jones and you've gone through also the experience of fighting for a UFC belt?
Yeah, fighting for a title is definitely a different experience. And I got to do it against somebody that they said I had no chance against, you know. Everybody counted me out. And that was a great experience. Everybody thought I was going to lose pretty drastically, and I went out there and, you know, won. So that experience is huge. But every fighter, every fight gives you certain experience. Jan's had many more fights than I have. Not, you know, UFC title fight, but definitely more fights, you know, and he has a wealth of experience as well. I expect Jan to be fully prepared, and it's going to be a hell of a fight, guys. I think we're going to steal the show.
Just out of curiosity, to touch on what you said, how it was a new experience, what was the biggest, I guess, surprise or biggest thing you learned when you fought for a title for the first time? What was the biggest difference compared to some of your other previous fights? Was it, you know, the sheer amount of media and the spotlight? Was it the extra rounds? Was it just the skill level in opponent? What's something that you just can't prepare for in a title fight unless you've experienced it?
Well, firstly, the media, that was the first thing. But Jan's not going to have to deal with that because we're the co-main, you know, and it's a short notice kind of deal, so it's not nearly as much. But I think the experience of being in the octagon and fighting for 5 minutes, 5-5s against, you know, the GOAT, that's something you can't. No matter what you do, you can't get that experience, you know. And I'm a whole new animal, man.
You mentioned the short notice fight. How does that sort of work for you? You found out only 4 weeks ago, and the fight is pretty much about 4 weeks away now. Is this enough time for you? Are you happy with the time, or would you have preferred, you know, maybe a little bit more notice?
I mean, you always want more notice when it's a title fight. You know, there's certain preparations that have to be made, but it is what it is. We deal with the hands we're dealt, and we play our cards. I'm out here with the royal flush, man.
Well, Jan is talking about visualizing you going down in the third round. He's having dreams and visualizing it, he says. What do you make of his prediction for this fight?
It's important. You got to visualize, man. Any high-level championship level athlete, you got to visualize. If you're not visualizing, what are you doing? If you're not confident, then what are you doing? You know, it's good for him. He's going to be ready, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'd love to know how you're visualizing it.
I'm going to win. That's all that matters to me. Win, 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 win. Hand raised. Champion of the world. I don't care how it goes down.
I guess the exciting thing about this, right, is that, you know, we've seen one guy sort of at the top of the light heavyweight division for so long, and now, for the first time in years, it's going to be the start of a brand new era. Actually, Daniel Cormier was the champ sort of in between as well, but this seems like a completely new era. So I'm just wondering, you know, the way Jon was sort of remembered, very dominant but very controversial, how do you sort of want to be remembered as champ? What are your goals as sort of, you know, the new light heavyweight champion of the division?
Hey, man, we'll see when we get there. I'm not a perfect human being. None of us are. And we'll see what happens. But when I become champ, you guys can judge me on my championship.
I mean, obviously, Jon Jones is a difficult fight, and Jan brings in a different kind of skill set. What kind of challenges to you do you believe he presents in this fight?
I mean, he has good power, and he's very technical. I've said this in all interviews. He's extremely technical. He throws clean punches. He throws with power, and he moves well, and he sets up things well. I think the biggest thing that separates Jon from him is obviously the length and the athleticism. But Jan is a good counterpuncher. Jon is not. I think that's the biggest difference between them, and the biggest challenge I'll be presented with. I'm obviously prepared for it. I'm obviously ready for it, but that's the biggest threat here.
Scott Coker was quoted recently saying that he believes that Bellator has the best light heavyweight division around. I'm just curious what you thought of those comments and this fight between you and Jan. Do you feel like this is for the #1 light heavyweight in the world at the moment?
I had a question for you. Do you think you have the best radio station on MMA in the world?
I don't think so. If I'm being objective, I would say we do a good job. I don't think we are the best.
We suck, Dom.
Right,
Dom, we suck. We're the worst. Let's be honest here. What are we doing here? You're making us consider a career change.
But I see your point. You think that to be the best, you got to have that mentality, right?
No matter what, whatever you have, you're gonna say it's the best. Oh, my car is. You're not gonna be like, oh, my car's all right. No, my car's shit. My car is gonna beat your car. My motorcycle is better than your motorcycle. My glasses are shinier than yours. It's always something. If you're trying to be the best, you got to find those little things, and it's up to them. It's up to you to prove otherwise. You know what I mean? So I think it's just him holding down for his organization. You know, he's trying to remain relevant. You know, Bellator isn't as glitzy. It's not as mainstream. People don't really know what's up with Bellator, even who fights in Bellator. So it's up to Scott Coker as the promoter to put it out there. My guys are the best. Create some controversy. Create a conversation. You know, to just do exactly what he did his job perfectly, because you're asking me questions about an irrelevant organization. You know.
Well, let's quickly talk about the card as well, because not only will you be taking on Jan, but also, obviously, Israel Adesanya will be taking on Paulo Costa as well in the main event. I'm just wondering, how do you feel about being on the same card with Israel? He's a guy that, you know, brought a lot of excitement to the division. Is it going to be, in a lot of ways, sort of a fun time for you to be able to share the card with a champion like him?
It's going to be cool. He's a cool guy. We've had a few conversations. We've had you know, a couple of drinks together. It was a good time. I like Izzy a lot. But that doesn't matter. There's how many? 14 other fights on the card. Only fight that matters to me is my fight. I'm probably not even going to see the main event. So it's cool.
I gotta ask you, what was it like drinking with Israel Adesanya? What is your drink of choice, and where did the night take you guys? Was this like Hangover Part 4?
No, we were in New York doing something for another media outlet, and I was drinking Yinglings because the East Coast has Yingling beer. It was really good. And I was drinking Yinglings, and we were out, and we just had a good time, man. We were running around the streets of New York.
How do you see? Who do you see winning between him and Paulo Costa? I know you're not. I know you said you're not going to watch the fight. I imagine you'll be busy with post-fight stuff after your fight with Jan. But who do you see winning in against those guys?
I have Izzy winning. He has a massive reach advantage, and he knows how to use his reach. And he also has extremely good footwork. Paulo is kind of a plodding, straightforward kind of fighter, and Izzy moves well laterally. So you all know what happens when you get a well-moving fighter against a straightforward fighter.
All right, Don. Well, as we wrap up, the most important prediction, you mentioned you're not really visualizing it, but just break down how are you visualizing walking into that octagon? There's not going to be, a crowd. It's going to be most likely on Fight Island. It's going to be a different setup. How are you visualizing sort of that fight in that moment against Jan Blachowicz at UFC 253 to potentially become the new UFC light heavyweight champion?
Don't get me wrong, man. I fought Jan probably maybe 2,000 times by now. And I've won in a myriad of different ways. But like I said, in all the different ways, all that matters is my hand is raised. Nothing else matters, man. It's going to be interesting walking into a quiet arena, but it's just going to put me in my zone sooner. Just me and my music, me and my zone, get in the octagon, I'm back home. And that's all I want.
Well, there you go, guys. Can't wait. It is going to be the start of a brand new era in the UFC's light heavyweight division. It is Dominick Reyes versus Jan Blachowicz at UFC 253 at Fight Island on September 26th. Is going to be the 27th here in Australia and New Zealand because of the time difference. Follow the man on Twitter at Dom Reyes and on Instagram at Dom Reyes24. Really appreciate the time, Dom. I think you were driving somewhere. You didn't know that it was going to be Skype video and you pulled over. So now we've probably made you late just so you can do the show. So we really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dom.
It's all good, man. Appreciate you guys.